This is Jesse with ROI Safety Services. Greetings, everybody. I am having a little bit of technical difficulty this morning with my camera, and I just needed to make some adjustments. The topic today is one of my favorite topics, and I don't believe I just have discussed this in quite some time, at least directly like I am today, and it's going to be focused today on how to reduce our workers' comp claim. Just some general instruction on how to do that. Um, kind of high level things, some low lying fruit that most every business can do right away to minimize your workers' comp claims, costs, and just the headache of managing your annual, um, your annual costs overall, your experience modification rate. I'm not really going to go into the EMR, which is the experience modification rate that your insurance company uses to charge you. And if you have a high one, typically over one, that's a problem. And if you're below one, seven is really good, and that's typically where a lot of our clients are. We do have a handful that are over one, and those are the ones we're spending most of our time with, and that's not a good thing for them. So let's talk about how to reduce these claims. What can we do? How can we increase our awareness and, of course, most of all, our responsibility of reducing workers' compensation claims? And what are workers' compensation claims? They're injuries. They're straight up injuries. How do we prevent injuries? Isn't that the $1 million question? I'm sure the $100 million question now. And that is to focus on preventing accidents. So preventable causes, unsafe behaviors, and unsafe conditions. Those are the areas we really need to take a hard look at as a business owner, as a manager of a business, a manager of a department. And it's focusing on prevention. That has to be the focus. I get most businesses are so spread thin. You got the quality person doing the EH&S stuff and the HR stuff and payroll. You have people wearing multiple hats. This is common. There's every business I go into, it's the same thing, and we have multiple hats. So nobody, safety falls through the cracks until it doesn't, until we start having major injuries and these big workers' comp claims. And then the owner of the business says, whoa, how much did our insurance go up from a year before? Oh my goodness, we better take action. I don't want you to be that person. Take action now. Now is the day that you take action and implement a safety training program. And I'm going to help you walk through some of the things that you can do. So accident prevention, the control of the hazard control hierarchy. This is common in the safety, in the safety language, I guess, is first we need to identify the hazards, and then we need to implement the hierarchy controls. And we always want to start with, actually, their engineering is up there, but we want to maybe even take it a step further. Whatever processes you have, do you have to do them at your site? Can you outsource them? So if you're doing, let's say you're doing a nickel plating or a chrome plating in your site, and it's very high risk, it's very expensive. If you were to eliminate that process and do it offsite, it may cost a little more, but really in the big scheme of things, outsourcing some things could be a viable way of cutting costs, cutting risk. But that's something that, as the owner of a business, you need to manage. The next level down would be engineering controls, and then that would be putting in things that would prevent injuries or almost eliminate them 100%, which most of us are using today. If you have a CNC machine, you have a guard in place, a door, and you have a lock on it or some kind of sensor on it that prevents it from, or if you open it, it'll shut everything down. So that is a really common engineering control in the machining shops. And then you have administrative controls, which is just could be one of them could be rotating your working force when exposed to loud noise, and personal protection equipment. Of course, this is what everybody's using. Is PPE a great idea? It's the last resort, and it's pretty much it. If your employees do not wear their PPE, then they're going to be at risk. So engineering controls, administrative controls, and then personal protection equipment. And of course, if you don't have to do it on site, don't do it. It may cost more, but you really need to add into the conversation, what is the real cost of doing a high risk process on you know at your location? Do you really want to implement um, these engineering controls, administrative controls, and of course, we're all going to end up using personal protection equipment, right? Especially when we're doing chrome plating or nickel plating. We may need to be wearing a respirator, and then you have a respirator program, and having these chemicals on site. So it could be a big burden. So those are things that you need to consider. Having a clear, established safety training program with policies. Very rarely do I go into a site where this is a clear program, it's readily available, everybody has had training on it, everybody has signed off that they understand and that they will comply. Having a clear program, clear description, and having everyone trained, having signed training records, and having programs for all required processes. So if you have a respirator program, you must have a clearly established program to manage the use of respirators. If you have a heat illness program, have it clearly defined, have training records. If you have a hearing conservation program, same thing. These programs must be current, they must be trained on regularly, and each program has actionable items that we must follow every single year. One of the most common neglected um, actionable items that I see are hearing conservation programs. We need to do annual audiograms. So it's annual, not every 2 years, not every 3 years. It needs to be done every single year. Training needs to be done every single year. So those are the things that must be kept up to date to minimize these workers' comp claims. Now, hold employees accountable, and this is another area we it's a problem today in our culture to hold people accountable. We have become so overly sensitive of offending people, and that has to stop when it comes to safety. We need to hold everybody accountable. So how do we do this? Well, you have a clearly defined disciplinary program. You have every single employee sign that they understand each safety program and that they are committed to following the requirements in that program. You must have them sign it, agreeing to the conditions of these programs. So if they're signing your hearing conservation program that they must wear hearing protection in certain areas, then that's that they need to be held accountable. If they're not wearing them, you must write them up. You must write them up and have records of it. Records, records, records. Have each employee sign the code of safe practices. And they vary from, industry to industry. And you can put specific language in your code of safe practices that you don't want to have happen at your job site. It could be something as silly as no horse playing. And what does that mean? I've had many clients have wrestling matches in their lunchroom, or just crazy things that I've seen over the years. Um, and we've had injuries on multiple occasions where employees were wrestling around in the break room or in the change room, and next thing you know, you have somebody falling and slipping and breaking their arm. Is that a work-related injury? No. But how do we address that? In the code of safe practices, no horse playing while on the job. You could include, no smoking would be another one. And no consuming alcohol, following all the rules in each department, various things like that. But they must be site specific code of safe practices. Wearing safety glasses or using machine guards, these are all things that you need to put in your code of safe practices and have your employees sign off that they understand. Not only do they understand it, but they agree to comply with it. Documentation is key. You got to document everything. Safety committees. Now, safety committees are an excellent way to cut down on workers' comp claims. They are an extension of management, and also where management can be integrated to the culture of the working environment. And it's a wonderful way to create a team environment, to get everyone involved, everyone enrolled into the program. Now, once you establish this safety program, the whole team is going to work together and do audits, evaluate programs, implement programs, keep people accountable. It's a wonderful thing in the working environment when it's done properly. Now, how is it done properly? You got to have management support, and this is the tough part, because people move on. Safety committee members move on and they go do different things. And what we see often is they don't get backfilled. And next thing you know, we're missing people, and then slowly but surely the safety committee fades away. So we need commitment from top management in implementing these safety programs. And every time the safety committee will meet, we look at workers' comp claims, we look at injuries, we look at training that we've done and training that we're going to do. We look at programs. It's just a wonderful way to manage a system within an organization. And then each safety committee should have a representative from each department. And it is a really good thing. I encourage everybody to do this. And if you need help with this, I would be more than happy to give you some information on this. And then incentive programs. Now, these in my career have always, they just need to be implemented with good motives and and buy-in. And that's a tough thing to do with incentive programs, because we want to avoid resentment. And what does that mean? If somebody gets hurt and all of a sudden that one person destroys whatever incentive program you have for the whole company, it could cause problems. And I don't want to do that. I mean, we don't want to do that as a business. We don't want to pinpoint one person. Because of you, we didn't get the In-N-Out truck this month. That's not a healthy way to manage an incentive program. We want to be able to manage it in such a way where we work together as a team, where if one of us, if the entire team suffers, we're not really putting it on one person. And that's a tough thing to do. I don't have the all-encompassing answer to that question, but some of the things I've done over the years that I have found to work well is when we hold departments. We do it by departments, and then if we do have a loss, and I would always manage it by if we have a loss time injury, that would disqualify us from whatever incentive we have. Now, I would use that as one piece of the pie. I would use safety inspections as another piece of the pie, and then I would have attendance to safety training as another piece. So if you use 3 different benchmarks, then you're not going to be focusing it on one particular area, okay? And you can score each of those benchmarks. That is a little complicated, I know, and you got to have somebody who's committed to managing it, and it does take work. That's what I think works. When you do it with different categories, and then those who have the highest score as a department within those categories will win that particular incentive program for that month. And if you do something like that, it's very competitive, but you got to have a pretty good sized organization to implement something like that. Now, that's one way to do it. The other way is just to have an overall company-wide incentive program, and that can get a little tricky as well. But breaking it down into different categories and having a total score, and if you reach that total score, you're gonna have the incentive program. So you're not just putting it on one person getting injured. You're putting it on attendance, and so safety training attendance, um, injuries, and inspection. So those are the three areas I like to focus on. And if you create a really good incentive program, everybody's going to win. And there is going to be a sense of creating accountability within the organization. So I like it, but the incentives need to be pretty good. They need to be pretty good. A lottery ticket, no, that's not going to cut it. Maybe some lunch from Dickies or something like that, that would be pretty cool. Or an In-N-Out truck, that would be cool too. So something that's going to be pretty cool that everybody likes to do, and let the safety committee manage that. Work area walkways and just doing general inspections, keeping your place clean. Housekeeping needs to be a priority. Housekeeping, housekeeping, housekeeping. I can't say it enough. I have gone to so many facilities, and when I see good housekeeping, I know that they're committed to safety. I know that they're doing good things, and every time it comes, it's true. It comes to pass when I do the inspection. Wow, you guys are doing a great job every time. So make housekeeping a priority. Um, Work practices, so training, implementing PPE policies, quantifying near misses. So these are some other areas to look at. Training, of course, is super important. You can't keep people accountable until they know what they're going to be held accountable for. All right, too many employees have quit because they got fired for something they just didn't know. I didn't know I was supposed to wear safety glasses. You just gave them to me. Well, we need to make sure that they not only know that they need to wear them, but when they need to wear them and why they need to wear them. You can't just give somebody something and say, wear it. People don't work that way. So we need to train them. We need to train them at the level in which they can understand it. We need to train each employee at the level in which they can understand and comprehend and be held accountable for. This must happen, okay? So having a haphazard training program, read this. There's 200 pages here of gibberish that your insurance company gave you, and you don't even know, you haven't read it. How do you expect your employees to read that and really comprehend it? Don't even go with that. Just, get rid of it. Put in a program that's effective, that you can hold your people accountable to, and have them sign off on the training. Okay, that's key. You got to hold people accountable to what they are aware of and what they can comprehend. Now, let's get into the whole workers' compensation side. Workers' compensation is insurance, is a no-fault system covering injuries, occupational disease to employees which occur by accident arising out of an and in the course of employment. Now, this procedure for reporting injuries needs to be crystal clear. Every single employee, and I mean everybody who collects a check at your location, must have training on this, on reporting injuries, near misses, who they need to report it to, how to report it, and what information is needed, and every single incident must be investigated. When an injury occurs or a near miss occurs, there should be somebody, there must be some kind of flow that you have on who to report these injuries to, and it must be done immediately, not 24 hours. Now, send an email, text, call, go visit your supervisor, let them know, hey, we had a near miss, or hey, I had an employee slip in my department. They say they're okay, but we need to do an investigation. Why do you need to do an investigation? Because we want to know what happened, because that investigation can prevent another injury, maybe at that location or maybe at another location. Please, this should be a priority. We want to prevent injuries. Now, when we have a claim, send your employee to the clinic. Having the right clinic is key. We need to have a good relationship with our clinic. We need to know the doctor. We need to know the manager at that location. We need to have protocols in place. Hey, when I send my employee to you, I want an immediate drug screening, and I want to be called immediately when you have a diagnosis, if there's any restrictions. As a matter of fact, I would recommend that you have one of your employees go with the employee. Of course, if it's not a serious injury and they're just going to the OCMED, then that's fine. But if it's the ER, that's a different story. We may not be able to go with them, but we can probably go afterwards. So, and then first aid injuries, we should definitely track first aid injuries. I like to keep a log on the cabinet, and when you pull something out of that cabinet, like a Band-Aid, I'm assuming you need it because you cut yourself. I want to know why. I want to know why you're taking burn cream out. I want to know why you're using the eye wash kit. Those are so important to identify, so that as a safety person or whatever role you are, you can say, hey, we've had 10 uses of burn cream this month. What's going on? We have a pattern developing. Is it the same person? Hey, why are you using burn cream every day? What's going on? And then it could be, oh, I burned myself at home. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for letting me know what happened. Is it affecting your job? Or no, I burn myself on the job and I keep burning myself every day. Well, hello, we need to go look and find out what's going on here. Oh, we're using a new system, and we're using a handheld heater to shrink the shrink wrap, and I keep getting burned, and I'm like, well, what do we need to do about that? We need to get some heat resistant gloves or something. So those are some good leading indicators of something's wrong with the system. We need to find out what's going on. So yes, document your first aid injuries. Document anytime someone takes something out of your first aid cabinet. Now, when do you use the emergency room? I typically will call 911 if somebody is unconscious, or it's something significant where if it's they're bleeding or they have a heart attack or things like that. But that's call 911. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I tell you that right now. Now, once we file a claim, and filing a claim is tedious and it's frustrating at times. So we need to have these claim forms available. We need to review them. Those of you in your organization that are filing claims, that's why an accident investigation is so important. Take pictures, get everything you need to know about the person, get an interview, and look at everything that happened, put that in a file, because once you file a claim, they're going to want to know all kinds of information about that person. Then what we want to do is look at these claims, analyze them. I'm working with a client right now, and we went back 3 years to look at all their claims and look at trends. So if we see a lot of strains and sprains, we're going to focus on that. We're going to go to that department and evaluate it and do what we call job hazard analysis, and look at that area carefully, analyze what's going on, and look for ways that we can improve those processes. And then look for red flags, look for injuries that are consistent injuries. When I was working for a refinery, we saw a lot of respiratory injuries, and so I spent hours analyzing the data over the years, and we put in some really nice preventive methods in place and processes in the refinery, which resulted in 0 injuries for several years. So it does pay off. Now, once you call in the injury, managing it thereafter is key. So using preferred providers, so whoever your occupational medical center is, I highly recommend you meet with them and you have a solid relationship with them. You go with the employee if you can. Definitely do drug testing. And when you train your employees on reporting injuries, it needs to be made very, very clear. If you are injured, you will be drug tested. It's our company policy. Inform the physician of the job requirements. Now, this should be done up front, working with the clinic of the jobs you have, and the risks that you have. If you have any safety data sheets, bring copies of them to the clinic so that they can have them on file. I don't know if clinics are doing this anymore. I'm sure the smaller ones are, but I would invite the doctor and the office manager to my site so that they can do a walkthrough. And they, believe me, they like it. I know they're super busy, but every time I've done it, and I've done it many times, the doctors always got a kick out of it, and they appreciate it. They want to know the people they're treating, and so it's really good idea to do that. Also, investigating the incident is so important. Look at the site, have take pictures, have cameras, um, interview, fact finding. What happened. Ask as many people as you can. Get everybody's input on it, and pictures are so valuable. Videos are so valuable, and return to work policy should be clearly defined. We do not want people staying home. Zero. If you have an injury and they are cleared to go back to work with modified duty, accommodate. That's all I'm going to say about that. Accommodate. It is going to pay off in the long run. Get them back to work. Get them into modified duty. Do not let them sit at home. Also, it increases employee morale, increases communication, help handle the difficult situation. So the more communication we have with the employee, the better. Have empathy for them. You know, Try to get it inside of what they're dealing with. They got hurt. They got to deal with these visits. They're in pain. They got to take medication. They probably have to go to therapy. Um, they let their fellow employees down in some situations. They're not going to get overtime. They're not going to get their regular pay. If that pay is including overtime that they rely on, they're not going to get that. They got to wait for a check. They're not going to get paid like they normally do in some cases. And then, they could develop some kind of resentment or even depression. So we want to be very, very emotionally intelligent to our injured employees. And so frequent calling from their manager, from the owner, really, just asking them, hey, what can I do to help you? It really goes a long way. Listening to them, supporting them, and getting them back to work fully as quickly as possible. I hope this stuff helps because, 30 years of doing this in industry, I've picked up on a few things and I've seen a lot of bad mistakes. I've seen a lot of employees get resentful and hire attorneys, and it just gets worse after that. So I'm doing this to help you, to help each of you avoid these very, very expensive injuries. And really, an injury does impact morale of the employees, especially if you're in a highly production environment and you're really relying on teamwork and a team member goes down and then you're down, you got to backfill that person or have somebody do double the work, hiring temps. Just don't do that. Avoid this with whatever resources you have. And then, when people file frauds that are wrong or that are, fraudulent, these are tough ones. And I've had my fair share of dealing with them. And oftentimes, we would get an employee that we know is very active. Maybe they're playing soccer, softball, whatever. Maybe they're snowboarders, and they come into work and they're limping around and, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay. And then a couple of days later, they come to you, oh man, I hurt my knee in the warehouse, and it's fraudulent. So those do happen. But we want to do our very best to prevent those. So training, holding people accountable. You have a lot of authority when you file a claim. That will be another topic. Once we open a claim and how we manage the workers' comp, maybe we go through our broker, maybe we go direct, depending on how you manage it. There's a lot of different ways to manage that with when it comes to having reserves, denying claims, suspicious claims, hiring a detective. Those are things that can be done, but we want to, that's another topic. But I appreciate those of you who are watching. I know this is live now, but we will keep this on our web, or I think we're gonna keep it in our YouTube channel. So like us on YouTube, follow us. I hope this helps. There is much more to go into this topic. This is just some high level stuff that we can implement now. Low-lying fruit, do it, implement it. If you need help, call me. My number, here's my cell number. It's 714-520-1608. Call me direct. I am so happy to help you. You can text me. My purpose for doing this is to help you keep your working environment safe for your employees, so that they can do whatever you're doing in the workplace, whatever it is, to keep going and be successful and bless each other and have great working relationships and enjoy our families. Getting hurt is terrible, and every single injury is 100% preventable. God bless each of you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope next week you will join me again. I don't even know what the topic is yet. I think it's posted, but we will get into another topic. I am also going to be interviewing a workers' comp attorney. I just spoke with her today before this session here, and I'm very excited for what she's going to train us on and give us some good information on, so that we can learn and get better in our industry and prevent injuries. Have a good one. My name is Jesse, ROI Safety Services. Give me a call if you have any questions. Text me, call me, email me. I'm here. Thank you very much. Goodbye.